Hello and welcome in our YouTube channel Metallurgical Facts. So this is the video series of Vizag RINL Junior Trainee JT previous year paper solutions. So in this video we will do 2019 part and we will do only metallurgical engineering part of 2019 paper, and this video series will consist few parts, and this is the first part. Before this video I have given one introductory video on Vizag Junior Trainee. So in that video, I have told about the exam pattern and eligibility criteria for junior trainee in Vizag Steel Plant. So before watching this video, you should watch that video also to know about the eligibility criteria and exam pattern, whether you are eligible for this exam or not. Okay. So this video is basically for diploma metallurgical engineering students, but BTech students can also watch these videos because for enhancing the knowledge of metallurgical engineering and to do the practice of metallurgical engineering questions. Okay, so in this video we will try to learn from the questions and from the options. Okay, so the first question from 2019 paper is that which one of the following compound is called white metal during the extraction of copper? Okay, so we should know the process of extraction of copper. So how to extract copper from copper ores? Okay, so for doing this type of questions, we will check for the options in last. Okay, so before doing for checking options, we will see what is this white metal. Okay, so basically this copper extraction process, we all know. I have already given one video on this in element introduction. You can go through the element introduction and you can watch that video. In that part I have given the extraction of copper. So extraction of copper basically consists of pre-processing. Then after the main step is matte smelting, and this after matte smelting there is one process that is known as converting. Okay, so this is converting and this is matte smelting. So the product of matte smelting is basically matte, or we can say matte is the uh, 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 mixture of copper and iron sulfide, that is Cu2s plus FeS. Okay, so after getting this matte, what we do, we convert this matte into the copper. Okay, so this converting process basically consists of two stages. Okay, so first stage is slag forming stage, and this is the slag is forming stage, and the next one is copper making. Okay, so this is two stage process converting. So slag forming stage is basically the principal product of this slag forming process is Cu2s. Okay, this U2S is known as white metal. So this U2S is known as white metal, and after getting this white metal, what we do, we uh, we do the copper making stage. In this stage, what we do, basically we oxidize this Cu2S. Oxidation of Cu2S take place and blister copper forms. Okay, so this blister copper we get from white metal. Okay, so this is basically the copper. Okay, so for this question, what we can do, this white metal is known as Cu2s. This Cu2s is correct answer. Okay, and we know how we choose this correct answer, because we know this converting process is two-step processing, that is slag forming stage and this copper making stage. Okay, so the main product of slag forming stage is Cu2s, and by doing the oxidation we get blister copper from Cu2s or white metal. Okay, so the correct option for this question is Cu2s, and we will see what is this. Okay, so this Cu2O, this Cu2, this is one ore of copper oxide ore basically, and this Cu2O is also oxide ore. These all I have mentioned in that video, element introduction of copper. Okay, and this Cu2, this Cus is also one ore of copper, that is covellite. This Cu2s is also known as white metal or chalcocite. Okay, so this is also copper ore, but this is not directly used for extraction of copper. We used chalcopyrite, that is CuFeS2 chalcopyrite, for the extraction of copper. Okay, so now we know about every options, and the answer for this question, white metal is CO2s, which is formed in slag forming stage in converting. Okay, and from this CO2s, what we get? We get blister copper. Okay, so this much we uh, identified from this question. The next question is hardenability of steel can be improved by shifting the triple T curve. Okay, so we will see what is the triple T curve and we will see the hardenability. So hardenability is basically the measured in terms of depth of penetration of hardness. Okay, and this depends on several factors. We will see the factors that affect the hardenability. Okay, before seeing that factors, we will see what is triple T diagram. Okay, so I am drawing a rough diagram. This is not measure diagram. Okay, so this is rough diagram, and we get curves like this, and this is known as triple T diagram. Because this triple T diagram, the full name of triple T diagram is time temperature transformation. That's why this is known as triple T diagram. Okay, and this diagram is also known as S curve. This is the different name which is used for uh, triple T diagram. So this triple T diagram is known as S curve, C curve, or isothermal diagram. This is also known as isothermal curve or isothermal diagram. Okay, so these are the four names which is used for time temperature transformation curve. Okay, so this is the diagram, and few of the things, that is alloying element, grain size, and few other things which affects this distance of the nose and this curve, which shifts right and left towards this axis. Okay, so in this question we will see what is the if what is the factors that affect the hardenability. Okay, so the first factor that affects hardenability is grain size, and this is the factor that is responsible for shifting the triple T curve, and that relates the hardenability. Okay, so the next thing is carbon content. Here we will not see in the detail what is the effect of these things. We will see in some other questions where they will ask. Okay, so the next thing is alloying elements. Alloying elements also affects the the hardenability. Okay, and the next one is severity of quenching. Okay, so what is the quench material, how we quench. Okay, and this is fifth is uh, there is no fifth, so this is four things that affects the hardenability. Okay, so this grain size, what is the we will see the grain size because this is responsible for shifting the triple T diagram. So this grain size in case of hardenability. Okay, so if the grain size, if we will increase the grain size, this hardenability will also increase, and the S curve means this triple T diagram curve will shift right. Okay, so this will shift right. So in this question they have asked that improved by hardenability of steel can be improved by shifting the triple T diagram. So in this case, if we will increase the grain size, the hardenability will increase, but this S curve will shift towards the right side. Okay, so this is left side, this is right side, so this will shift to the right side. It means this is going away from the temperature axis. Okay, so so for this question we will see the options. This is the B part, which is correct option for this question. This is away from the temperature axis. So hardenability of steel can be improved by shifting the triple T curve to away from the temperature axis. We have seen these factors which affects the hardenability. We have seen the other names of triple T diagrams, which will be beneficial, which will be useful for next exam. For upcoming exam they can ask by changing the name. Okay, name also, so we should understand these things. And this relation between the grain size and the hardenability. Okay, the next question is the type of load applied in stretch forming process. So this is basically metal forming process, and in this stretch forming we will see what type of load is used. Okay, so suppose this is the sheet which we want to stretch form. So what we do in stretch form, basically in this forming process, what we do, we produce a large radius of curvature. Okay, so large radius of curvature is produced by stretching. Okay, so for stretching what we use, we use jaw. Okay, so there will be jaw which will pull from both the sides. Okay, so if we will pull from both the sides, and one they used they used basically one form bulk say they used. Okay, so this is they will used, and that they will use the jaw from the both side, and they will stretch, they will basically apply the tensile forces. So this will be after process, this will be like this large curvature, large radius of curvature. Okay, so in this stretch forming process, basically we apply the tensile forces because we need to draw from both the sides. Okay, so this stretch forming process is basically used in uh, aircraft industry. Aircraft industries use this stretch forming process for making the large radius of curvature products. Okay, so the correct option for this question is tensile. The type of load is tensile load, which is used in stretch forming processes. The next question is, Griffith theory is proposed brittle fracture mechanism based on. So they have given the four options, that is plastic strain energy, heat energy, elastic strain energy, and Gibbs free energy. Okay, so Griffith theory is basically for the brittle fracture. I have given one video on this. So if you want to watch that video, go through the Griffith theory of brittle fracture. Okay, and watch that video. That will be beneficial for numerical problems. Okay, so here I am telling that Griffith proposed that in any material there may be a large number of fine cracks. So these cracks may be fine. Okay, and that is basically elliptical model. Okay, so he has given the elliptical crack model. So in next exam they can ask this question also, elliptical model of crack. Okay, so this is the larger in number, but this is fine cracks. Okay, so whenever we will apply the load on this material, they will start releasing one kind of energy, that is elastic strain energy. This energy, when that is elastic strain energy, this is energy basically when the crack will start propagating after applying the load. Okay, and few cracks will also generate, and these cracks need few surface energy, that is surface energy. So this elastic strain energy is basically the energy that is stored in the material as it is elastically deformed. Okay, so that's why this is known as elastic strain energy. And the cracks which is generate and for producing the new cracks, few energy is required, that is known as surface energy. So Griffith proposed one criteria after balancing these two type of energy. Okay, so what are that two type of energy criteria? That is energy, sorry, this is elastic strain energy, and the other one is energy energy required to uh, energy required to form the new crack. Okay, so for creating the new crack. So after balancing these two type of energy, he gave one formula, that is sigma is equals to, there is a derivation for this formula, but I am not doing the derivation part here. So this is sigma is equals to under root of 2 e gamma by pi c. So this e I already told, this is elastic modulus. Okay, or Young's modulus. This is elastic modulus or Young's modulus. This gamma is the surface energy. In that video I have already told. Okay, so you can watch that video of Griffith theory of brittle fracture. This C is the surface crack. Okay, this is surface crack. So we can say for this question, Griffith theory is proposed brittle fracture mechanism that is based on elastic strain energy. So we can find this question, this option here, that is C option. C option is correct for this question, that is elastic strain energy. Or if they will give the energy required to form new crack, this is also related to the Griffith theory. So this question may be asked in near future, and this is Griffith theory is basically related to the elliptical crack model. So this is also a important point for this this Griffith theory, and this formula is very important for GATE aspirants and for RINL exam. So they can ask the numerical problems also from this type of equations. Okay, so if we should need to remember these points from this question. So the next question is ductile to brittle transition temperature, that is DBTT, of a metal depends on the, so they have given the three things upon which they depends. Okay, so we have to identify whether temperature is the factor, grain size is the factor, and chemical composition is factor for ductile to brittle transition temperature or not. Okay, so this ductile to brittle transition temperature is basically the transition temperature where ductile material change its behavior in brittle nature. Okay, so this for this type of questions we will not directly jump into the options. Okay, so before jumping to the answer options, we will try to create our own answer, like by finding one or two of two correct things from this given things. Okay, so we will try in this question tactile to brittle transition temperature, that is DBTT, of the metal depends on. So for this question we can say this DBTT depends on many of the factors. The first is temperature is sure. This grain size, that depends on grain size also. Chemical composition also. Okay, so this DBTT depends on these three things, that is temperature, grain size, chemical compositions, and this is limited. There may be other factors upon which DBTT depends. Okay, so here we will see how grain size affects. The finer the grain size, finer grain size will transition temperature will decrease. Okay, if we will use the finer grain size, transition temperature will decrease. And how chemical composition affects this DBTT. Suppose taking example for steel, if we will increase percentage of carbon by 0.1 weight percent, if we will increase 0.1 weight percent of carbon, this will increase 14 degrees centigrade for transition temperature. If we will consider the magnesium case, if we will increase 0.1 weight percent of magnesium, this will lower the 5 degrees centigrade of transition temperature. This is not, we have to remember, we have to just understand how this chemical composition affects the DBTT. Okay, if we use nitrogen, silicon and phosphorus, if we will increase 0.0 weight percent, this will increase 7 degrees centigrade. Okay, so for choosing the DBTT applications, steel applications, so we need to understand, we need to take the combination of these all things. Okay, so we have to consider these all things while choosing the DBTT component. Okay, so nickel also lowers the transition temperature, so if we will use nickel, that will also lowers the transition temperature. And about grain size we have already seen, and this grain size, because of this finer grain size and this chemical composition, this temperature varies, and this that's why this DBTT also depends on this temperature. So the correct option for this question is 1, 2 and 3. So we will find which option consists 1, 2, 3, all of these. Okay, so this C option consists of all of these, that is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this option is correct, C option is correct. So we understood how DBTT depends on the grain size and chemical composition in this question. So in next exam they can ask the if the finer grain size will increase the transition temperature or decrease the transition temperature. We can easily identify in that exam by uh, doing this question. Okay, so this is very important topic, DBTT. We should learn more things about this DBTT concept, because the this relates many applications, real life applications in our life. So the next question is, which of the following statements are true in galvanic series? So they are asking about galvanic series. So we should understand about, we should know about the galvanic series. So this is not basically EMF series. There is basic difference from EMF and galvanic series. One of them is that this is for all alloys and metals, and this is basically for metals in correspond to hydrogen electrode potential. Okay, so we will see our knowledge in galvanic series, then we will find whether we know any of this statement about this statement or not. Okay, so we will see what is galvanic series. I am writing here few compounds, sorry, few elements. So this will start from platinum, gold, graphite. Okay, so we need not to learn this galvanic series, but we should remember few of the things from the above of the series and from the lower side of the series. Okay, so hence and many more things in between this 3116, and this will again start from aluminum alloys, and this cadmium, this is pure aluminum, and there are many others, that is zinc and magnesium. So at lower point we find low magnesium, and at highest point we find platinum. Okay, so we can so this is, suppose this is our series, so these are the more noble metals. Okay, so because these are more noble metals, we know the platinum is noble precious metal, also gold is precious metal and more noble. Okay, so we can write like that. If we will, I am first I am drawing. Okay, so this is inert cathode, and as soon as we will come downwards, this will be cathodic, sorry, increasing anodic behavior. Okay, so this is anodic behavior and this is cathodic behavior, inert cathodic. Okay, so if we will talk about the this series, so how to read this series. If we will come from top to bottom, we will go from inert cathodic side to inert anodic side. Okay, so it will increase the anodic side. If we'll go from bottom to top, so that will, what will happen, we will start going towards the inert cathodic side. Okay, so from this given lines, that is noble metals are placed at the top. This is correct statement. We can say this is correct statement because I already told these are the noble metals. Okay, the second thing is cathodic metals are placed at the top. Okay, so this is also correct because I already told as soon as we will start going upside, so this will be increasing, increasing order of inert cathodic. Okay, so this will be cathodic, more cathodic. So this cathodic metals are placed at the top. The anodic metals are placed at the top. This is wrong because I already told, if we will go downward, this anodic behavior will increase, and these anodic metals are placed at the bottom side, not top side. So if they will be given in bottom side, then only these options will be correct. If they will give top, that will wrong. Okay, so the noble metals are at the top. What we identified that noble metals are at top. Okay, and the anodic metals are at bottom, and cathodic metals are at, so these are the three things at top. Okay, so these are the three things. So we should remember about the galvanic series. They can ask any question from this type of questions from this type of topic. Okay, so the correct option for this question is 1 and 2. So we will try to find this 1 and 2 in options. So this is not correct, this is not correct, this is not correct, this is correct. So C option is correct for this question. So which of the following statement are true in galvanic series? That noble metals are placed at the top and cathodic metals are placed at the top. Okay, so these both are correct. So the next question is, which of the following is used as binder in CO2 molding process? Okay, so if we need to understand the CO2 molding process, what is CO2 molding process? So we use the cope and drag method for the CO2 molding. Okay, so we should understand that this CO2 molding process is also known as sodium silicate. This process is also known as sodium silicate process. Okay, so this name itself suggests that sodium silicate is used as binder in this process. Okay, so we will find the option which is correct. So sodium silicate, this is B option, this is B option is correct. These all are also binders, but these are used for some different kind of things. There are many, so I am not going to discuss in which process they are going to use. Okay, so sodium silicate is used as binder in CO2 molding process, because the other name for CO2 molding process is sodium silicate process. And one more thing I know, that is calcium carbonate is used in phosphate used as phosphate binder. Okay, so this is basically used in medical sectors also. That is, this is something different, that's why I told about this. And these all are used in various process, so I'm not going to discuss these things. So the option for this question is, correct option for this question is sodium silicate. That is also the name of this process, CO2 molding process. Sodium silicate process is the other name of CO2 molding process. The next question is, addition of FeO in slag practice is used to remove. Okay, so this FeO in slag practice, so basically this FeO is present in slag and this is used to remove. So they have given four things, that is carbon, magnesium, manganese, sulfur and phosphorus. So for the sulfur we can say, for this is the odd question, this is the odd option, so we can say sulfur we reduce during the blast furnace process itself. Okay, so this is not correct for putting here. Okay, so we will see the for carbon, manganese and phosphorus, for the phosphorus. Okay, so we know for this question, for the carbon is removed by FeO, addition of FeO. How this FeO reacts with carbon and produces Fe plus CO gas, that is basically that is basically this Fe will go in the metal, hot metal, and this CO will be removed as the gas. So this carbon is removed by using the FeO. And phosphorus can also be removed by using the FeO, so we can remove phosphorus also. And manganese is also removed by using this FeO, so this manganese is also removed by FeO. So FeO is added for removing the carbon, phosphorus and manganese. Okay, so in this question sulfur is odd, that is removed in blast furnace process, during the blast furnace process, or is somewhere in between the blast furnace and steel making, sorry, BF process. Okay, so one more thing, one additional thing, that is desiliconization. This is not given in the question, but I am giving the additional concept here. So this desiliconization is basically done in the three places we can do this desiliconization. That is blast furnace runner. Okay, so this is these things I have taken from the standard reference. So there should not be any doubt in between you guys. Okay, so this desiliconization can be done in blast furnace runner or transfer ladle. There is a transfer ladle which is used for transferring the hot metal in steel industry. So that is transfer ladle, and the third one is torpedo car. Okay, so these are the three places where we do the desiliconization process by adding the desiliconization agent. Okay, so we can use the desiliconization agent and we can remove this silicon from steel. Okay, so for this question we will see the carbon, manganese and sulfur, phosphorus can be removed by adding the FeO in slag practice. So we will find the correct option, that is 1, and this manganese is 2, and this is 4. So 1 to 4 is the correct option for this question. So this is not correct, this is not correct, this is correct option, this is C, and this is also not correct. Okay, so C option is the correct option for this question. The next question is, full annealing process is not adopted for hyper-eutectoid steel due to. So we should know about hyper-eutectoid steel, we should know what is full annealing process. Okay, and they have given the three statements, that is coarsening of austenite grains, formation of fine lamellar perlite and formation of cementite network. Okay, so we will see these statements whether these are correct or not for this question. Okay, so for this question we should understand what is hyper eutectoid steel. So we know this is a eutectoid point, that is at 0.76 still. I am drawing here tie line. So after this is 6.67, this is a 0.76. Okay, so the steel component which is having 0.6 less than composition, carbon composition less than 0.76, that will become under the hypo region. And after the if the steel composition is greater than the 0.76, that will come in the hyper range. Okay, so in hyper range, this carbon will present in more than eutectoid steel. Okay, so this hypo range basically produces pro alpha, that is pro ferrite and perlite. And in this hyper range, what we get pro cementite, okay, and we get perlite. And in this field we get the lamellar perlite basically. Okay, so this is hyper eutectoid, and this full annealing process is basically the heating of steel above the upper critical temperature. So we can see this we see this type of curve for in iron carbon diagram. Okay, so I'm not drawing the full curve here. Okay, so we see that this is the upper limit, this is upper limit for hypo region, and this is for hyper region, this is for hyper region, and this is for hypo region. So this for the purpose of the full annealing process is to refine the grain size of steel. Okay, so if we will do the full annealing, that will refine the grain size of steel. And the second thing is to soften the steel. The third thing is to relieve internal stresses, to relieve the internal stresses. Okay, and the fourth thing is to improve machinability. These are the four primary things for which to improve the machinability, for which the full annealing is done. Machinability. Okay, so these are the four things. This is the main purpose for doing the full annealing. Okay, so this full annealing refines the grain size. But in hyper eutectoid range, what happened, the carbon percentage is higher, so the austenite grains will start growing. Okay, so grain growth will take place. This grain growth of austenitic grain growth will take place, and that will start growing, and that will form the coarse grains. So that for if we will do the full annealing in hypereutectarian, that will start coarsening of austenitic grains. Okay, so this is one reason, and this is not the correct statement here, that is given formation of fine lamellar perlite, because that is basically in eutectoid range or hypoeutectoid range. Okay, so the formation of cementite network, this is also possible, because we know this in this hyper range we get the pro cementite part, which and this is perlite form. So this cementite network can be formed during the full annealing process, because we will go for upper critical range, upper critical temperature, that is ACM, where formation of cementite start taking place. So this cementite network can also form. So this 1 and 3rd is correct for this question. So the C option 1 and C is 1 and 3 is correct. This is not correct, this is not correct. C is correct option for this question. Okay, so what we'll learn what is the hypereutectoid steel. For doing the numericals of this hypereutectoid range and this hypo range, I have given one video lecture on the numericals on iron carbon diagram in the hypo range and in hyper range. You can see that in physical metallurgy playlist. Okay, so watch that video. You will be good in numerical sections of hypereutectoid steel and hypoeutectoid steels. Okay, so for now this C is correct for this question. Thank you guys for your attention. Hope you have learned something new in this video, and this video will be beneficial for boosting your preparation of any of the examination for metallurgical engineering. Please suggest your friends to watch these videos, because this is not only for junior trainee, this is for GATE aspirants as well. For RINL MT exam also, they can also do the practice, because these questions are very good and we can learn many concepts from these questions. Okay, so subscribe our channel and press bell icon to get notifications for upcoming videos. Thank you.